We're back in the garage this morning, and it looks like it's going to be a beautiful day here in Missouri, especially for the beginning of March. Temperature is supposed to be up around 70, so probably going to need a motorcycle out this afternoon, but right now we're going to work on a wing rib. We built the form for the front half of the ribs in the last video, and this time we're going to actually build a rib. I've built a couple so far. They come out pretty good, trying to refine the process each time. So let's see what we can come up with now. There's one that I've already assembled. I think it looks decent. Need to work a little bit on this flange at the front. Other than that, it come out good. So let's start building the third one. First thing I build on these is the nose piece. We've got the piece I cut out as a form, so we'll trace around that and cut it out on the bandsaw, trim it down, and have that ready to go. Then we can start bending it. So we got the piece rough cut out here. Just go around it with the bandsaw, then trim up what I can with the belt sander, and then some of the notches I'll use the stone on the grinder trim in there. And what I found out that I like to do is to go ahead and put this rear bend in that just flips up, and that way it will hold it against the form while you're hammering out the rest of it. So make sure you've got it oriented properly, because if you bend it the wrong way, it would be, you know, a nose rib for the opposite side, which I'll be building later. So it wouldn't be wasted, but wouldn't be able to use it right now. So I laid that pattern on there like I want it. And then go ahead and make my mark to bend it, and we'll take that over to the brake and bend it up. And we've got the flange built. It's butted up against the back. Position the form how you want it. And I've been just drilling one hole through the center. And then we can fasten the other piece on the back side. I've just been using a wood screw on this because when I actually go to hammer forming it, the whole assembly goes in a vise to crank it down nice and tight. You can align the edges. I left everything a little bit long, so now we'll go delicately trim it back toward the form. At this point, I generally just use the flap wheel to gently trim up what I want to trim up on the deal. Makes a nice smooth cut, doesn't tear anything up. Okay, when you go to bending this piece over for the reinforcement on the nose, there's a lot of excess metal there. And then it's not a really wide area to try to shrink, so I've just been hammering it down into submission. This time I cut a couple of notches in the form, so as we bend it down, we'll try to push the extra material down into those notches like they do on the bulkhead flange. And this area in between the tabs and the little reinforcement needs to be cut back down to your form so it doesn't try to rip the aluminum right there. All right, now we should be ready to start forming that little edge down. And that actually did a pretty good job on that. And you can always adjust that a little bit, especially when you're wrapping the skin around the front. So now we need to fold the tabs down, and what I've found works best on it, if you go to hammering them down now, you get some wadded up material that you got to hammer flat. So I take it over and I shrink those a little bit till they start going the direction I want. Then I put them back in the form and finish hammering them down. All right, we're back over here with the shrinker. Start working these tabs a little bit gently. And see, we're bending them back the way we want them. And that's just gathering up the metal a little there, so it'll be easier to get it to fit around the form. Okay, we'll take this back over, hammer those down. We are back in the form. As you can see, those tabs have got a slight forward bend just like we were wanting to get. So now all we got to do is finish flattening them out. Thing is flattened down. Left stuff a little long so we can go back and trim it up. And first, let's put the 2-inch hole in the middle. I just use a standard hole saw to put the first hole in. That guide hole is where I want the hole. And we'll line it up and carefully make a hole in it. Alright, the hole is cut. Just go around it and deburr it with this tool. Sure it's nice and smooth on the inside edge. Now we can go take it over next door and flange it. To flange it, I just cut out a little tool out of some scrap aluminum I had. So we'll set it in here. You can build these out of wood. I saw on Dennis Brooks's website that somebody had built him some flanging dies out of 3D printed material. Sounds like a good idea. Put that in there. And I put the flange up, same as this little reinforcement deal. That way it lays on the rib jig properly. Get it all in there. Now usually it tries to distort this front edge since the material's a little not as wide up there, so I try to keep it straight as it flanges it. And there you go. Those notches worked really well on that front edge. I would definitely recommend doing that. Right now, we need to trim back. See this edge here? That needs to come back a little bit because the upper piece needs to slide in there and butt up against that. Same as the bottom. And then these are a little long. They just need to be 1/2 inch, so we'll cut those down to fit. And then we'll get it all in the jig and we can make the rest of it. All right, it is in the jig. As you can see, I cut that back a little bit so that other piece can slide in there. Same down below. The little notches in the front, or the little divots I put in there, make that much nicer transition, but it doesn't, the way I've got the form built, it doesn't fit down in there. So I just leave the front edge popped up just slightly. I had traced around when I built the first one, so I know exactly where the back of that needs to be, so that won't make any difference as long as I get the back about where it's supposed to be. And the flanges are in the grooves like they should be. So now we can make the upper and lower pieces. That's just a piece of 20 thousandths, 90-degree angle. And then we have to shrink this edge here to form the corner. And it's a little tricky to get that exactly right, but not too bad. Strip here is cut to the length we need. Now all I need to do is mark it at a 1/2 inch. We'll take it over, bend it. Then it'll be ready to start shrinking the one edge. And if you're nice and patient, and remember to take your Prozac, you'll end up with a nice piece that has no big puckers, that fits in the form nicely. Here's the part where I was mentioning that needs to be cut back slightly because that slides underneath. So now we're ready to put a couple of holes there, cleco that in place, and we can start on the bottom rail. The bottom one is in place. I didn't bother videoing it because it's the same as the top. Next up, we need to make the rear piece where it bolts onto the spar. It's pretty easy, just 2 bends, and no shrinking. There's the end piece. We've got it marked for the 1/2 inch bend to go down into the form. Then we'll flip it over, mark 1/4 inch on the other side, and bend it the other direction for the reinforcement. 1/2 inch bend. This is a little more difficult since this edge will be facing down, but it's still quite doable. Just raise that up a little higher. Get it to where you want it. And then just be a little more careful when you bend that up. And there's your Z-bend. So we'll trim up the ends, round everything off, flatten everything out, smooth everything up. And it'll be ready to put in the form and drill and cleco. Last up, we've got the U-shaped cross brace that goes across here. Just made out of 16,000 sheet. I'll get it cut and bent up. Then we can pull it all apart, deburr it, and do my favorite part, rivet it together. Cross brace is there. Let's rivet apart, deburr it, and then cleco it back together off of the board. And now we rivet. As I mentioned in the last video on the ribs, I use the Avex pull type rivets on these. You can use the smaller 3/32 drive type, but these pull type rivets, when you have one of these, it's just fun. Kaboom! And there is a completed nose rib. I'm happy with it. Looks good. The flutes on the divots on the front work good. Everything works good on it. So now this is number what? 3? 17 more to go. This will probably be the last rib video I do, because the rest of it is just repeating what I just did right there. Of course, 10 of them need to face this direction, 10 of them need to flip the board over and make it the other direction. There are a couple of other little things that change that I'll go through right now. Otherwise, it's just making ribs. You don't have to make any extras for like the step ribs on the back, because you don't step on the front of the wig. One thing that needs changed, the outboard ribs on the center section, each outboard rib will need this brace put on the inside, because there'll be the aileron controls here. Yeah. So this brace will need to go on the inside. There will be a couple that, yeah, let's just walk over to the plane. See where they fit on there? You'll have to compensate for this attachment fitting. So what we'll do is the ones that need that, get this corner trimmed out, and they will have a triangular gusset that goes on the back to rivet it together. So there'll be a couple like that. And then there's also a couple, the very inboard ribs right here, they need to be 3/16 inch shorter end to end to compensate for the carry through piece. Other than that, everything's just a repetition. And like before, each one I'm building is getting better. So by the time I'm done, I should be able to put out some really good ribs. Number 3. All right, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said, probably won't have any more airplane videos for a week or 2, maybe 3, while I'm building front ribs. As soon as I get back with it, put some videos up on the plane. In between time, I'll probably have some more tractor videos, maybe some motorcycle. You never know with me. Thanks for watching.